Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to explain about the micro front-end architecture. Okay, so in the web application or cloud application, there has a two main part. The web application is divided into the two main part. The first one is front-end, another one is back-end. Okay, so micro front-end is related to the front-end, and before move to the micro front-end, I will explain little bit about the microservices architecture. Okay. So now microservices architecture is related to the backend. So let's move to the content. Okay. So what is the microservices architecture? Okay. Microservices is nothing. Microservices is divide the backend into the separate services. Okay. Let's simply I have give some idea. So take the backend for the air ticket reservation system. So we can divide the backend as a separate services like booking service and the flight service likewise, and login service and the security service likewise. We can separate the backend into the several microservices. Okay, so each application in that function handled on the independent services, that is the microservices. Okay, so another term for the microservices, actually microservices are mode of architecture used to build a distribute application and structure ring it as a collection of services. Okay, in other words, so microservices are divided the backend into the different services. Okay, I think you have get some idea about the microservices architecture. So let's move to the micro front end. Okay, micro front end is nothing, it is the same concept applying for the same microservices concept applying to the micro front end side. Same that backend microservices concept is we can take as the micro front-end architecture. So micro front-end is have a similar concept to the microservices. I'm already told that. So they are extension of the microservices concept to the front-end world. Okay. So the micro front-end is a type of architecture where the web application is divided into the different module or individual functions. So now I have give the basic idea. Let's explain through the some diagram. Okay, you can see in here I have published some diagram in this video. So there is a that diagram is divided into the two main component. Okay, the first one is monolithic application and the micro front end application. So in that monolithic application part, you can see there is a one backend for the several services. Okay, in that monolithic application, monolithic mean actually it's a legacy. In that legacy system, they are using that my front end and back end in the same project structure, the same location. Okay, so now the micro front end application, each service has a backend. You mean each micro front end has the backend. Okay, so micro front end are divided into the separate services. The components are divided into the separate services. This is the basic idea to the micro front end. So let's I have give simple idea how the micro front end work. Okay, so the micro front end can be complete page or also specific fragment of the page, which can be used by other team to add somewhere in the page they are developing. Okay, so unlike reusable component. So another term to micro front end, the main advantages is micro front end are can reused to the another project, reused in the another projects. Okay, so micro front end can be implement independently as a individual projects. Okay, so take the air ticket reservation system. In the air ticket reservation system, so uh, the air ticket reservation system. So the micro front end is not only we can. So there is no barrier to the micro front end. we can only develop by the same technology. No, not like that. We can use many technologies to develop the micro front-end architecture. That means take a reservation system. There has a booking component and the flights component. Flights component can develop using Angular Vue.js. Okay, so the booking component we can develop using React, okay, React or React.js, something like some any technologies. Okay, so technology is not dependent with the micro frontend. So um, we can use many technologies to develop several technologies to develop develop the that components, and we can build that every component into the main shell application. Okay, so we can deploy that several component into the main shell application. Okay, so technology is not dependent. So there is a plugin to deploy that, so attach that components into the shell application. So there is a plugin. I will explain those the plugins and how we can build the micro front-end architecture, so to etc, blah blah blah. I will explain through the presentation. Okay, so let's move to the presentation. Yeah, hello guys. So now I'm going to explain what is the micro front end through this presentation. Okay, let's move to the presentation. Yeah, what are the micro front ends? Currently, the before move to the micro front end, again I will explain microservices a little bit. Currently, microservices are used to separate the different component of an application, and they work perfectly well in the backend. Okay, so micro frontend have the similar concept to microservices. They are extension of the microservice concept of the front end world. Okay, so the micro front end is a type of architecture where a web application is divided into different module or individual functions implemented autonomously, allowing front-end teams the same level of flexibility and speed that microservices provide to the back-end teams. Okay, so in this diagram, you can see there is a microservices 1 and the microservices 2 and the microservices 3, separate 3 microservices, and there are 3 micro front-end app with different technologies. Okay, the first micro app is React, and the second micro app is Angular, and the third micro app is Vue.js. So I already said the micro app, the micro front-end app, so not depend with the technologies. Okay, so we can use any technologies for each and every micro front-end app. So the first micro app is deal with this service, and the second micro app is deal with this service, and the third micro app is deal with this backend microservices. And finally, all the separate micro app and the microservice, the micro front-end apps are plugged into the main shell app. Okay, so this is the basic concept of behind concept of micro front-end app, micro front-end technologies. Okay, so we can use any technologies for each and every separate micro front-end app, and finally we can plug into the main shell app. Yeah, plug into the main shell app. Okay. So how do micro frontend works? Okay, the micro frontend can be complete page or also a specific fragment of the page which can be used by other team to add somewhere in the page they are developing. Okay, unlike reusable component. So micro frontend can be implemented independently as individual project. The technique for implementing micro frontend is to develop everything separately, extracting the other component at runtime to the runtime, use them. Okay. So the micro frontend consists of several independent and modular components that will be displayed as required. In addition to the components that display content, a micro frontend can also have several utility components to interact with the application environment. It could be a user or other component. Okay. So in this diagram, you can see I'm already said we can see the shell main application, and there is a separate four micro frontend components, micro frontend apps or project. Okay, the module mean this is the micro frontend applications, and the service mean the backend relate to the this each and every micro frontend app. Okay, so you can see in here the module A mean the module A micro frontend is only deal with the backend service A. Likewise, there is a four micro frontend app with different technologies or the same technologies, and finally that four separate micro frontend applications are plugging into the main shell application. Okay, so uh, I have give some another idea. These four micro frontend application and the backend services can develop by separate teams, development, full stack development teams. Okay, or the same. It's depend on your project or your company. Okay, so deploying micro frontend. Okay, so each team can have separate repository, CI/CD pipelines, and service machines. Okay, or natively we can host everything on monorepo and have a single shared CI/CD pipeline. Yeah. So when we deploy micro frontend, we need separate uh, we need separate repositories and the CI/CD pipelines, because the micro frontend are developing by separately with separate team. Okay, so we need separate CI/CD pipeline and source control. And likewise, there is a three micro frontend projects and these three repository and CI/CD pipeline. Okay, so development team push those micro frontend app. I think the micro frontend app 1, micro frontend app 2, micro frontend app 3. Okay, separately push into the these separate source control and build by the CI/CD pipeline separate each and every micro frontend. Finally, it's go to the production and it's automatically deploying into the shell app. Okay, finally, when we developing those micro frontend app separately, okay, but finally it will be plugged into the main shell app. Okay, this is the production. Main shell app is the production application, but in this production application, shell application, there is a three separate micro frontend component. It's separately developed. It's the development is done by separately, and the source control and the pipeline buildings are done by separately. This is the main idea about the basic idea about deploying micro frontends. Okay, so deploying client-side composition micro frontend that are created with Webpack module federation is extremely easy, efficient, and inexpensive. Okay, I will explain. I will give some basic idea about module federation plugin. Okay, yeah. What is the Webpack module federation plugin? Yeah, Webpack is a well-known framework that is widely used in frontend for years. So Webpack added a new plugin for micro frontend that solved most of issues with previous framework. Webpack is an open source JavaScript module bundler. Okay, so you can go through this slide and you can get a basic idea about Webpack module federation plugin. It's not an this Webpack module federation plugin is nothing. It is a simple JavaScript open source plugin to connect that separate micro frontend into the main shell app. Deal with the yeah. So yeah. So yeah. So in this using this picture, you can get idea of how to use module federation plugin. Yeah, the module federation plugin enable configurations. Those we can config using the module federation plugin. We can give remote entry name. So this is the shell app. So in here there is four separate micro app components, micro front end component, front end app, home, flight, booking, config. So each and every micro front end app we need to configure using these parameters. So we need to configure using the module federation plugin. So then module federation plugin enable to plug the separate micro frontend app into the shell application by calling this remote entry point. Yeah, same like microservices architecture. So in the microservices architecture also there is an endpoint, and in this micro frontend architecture also had the same thing. There is an endpoint to call each and every separate micro frontend application into the shell app. Likewise, we can plug those separate micro frontend app inside to the shell. Okay, so module federation plugin is help to that part. Okay, so guys, I'm guessing you got some idea about micro frontend architecture, the basic idea about micro frontend architecture. So next week we will so I will do how to implement the real micro frontend application using Angular. Practically I will do that. So next week we'll meet on my another tutorial, the implementation tutorial. Thank you.